Friends, colleagues and listeners, here we are, another podcast with an industry stalwart and somebody who everybody will know, and the person I'm talking about is Steve Polmans, who's ACE, and that stands for Air Cargo Expert. So Steve, lovely to see you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, Chris, and to talk to you.
Yeah, no, it's always. So, what I want to ask you, here we are in Miami, but you've been busy this last year. How have things gone for you since you kicked ACE off?
I can't complain. I rolled into it without a real plan, which is not my nature.
Yeah.
But it has been developed pretty quickly in a solid, stable business. And I'm working with some of the bigger consultants that need air cargo experts. But I'm also working on some smaller projects where people need like real expertise from the floor, from experience. So yeah, I'm really happy and it's fun to be working around the globe and get customers in Africa and India, in Central Asia. And the fun thing is you start discovering new things, you meet new people. And if you're in a job in a company, you're much more in a certain rhythm. So it has been a very, for also on a personal level, a very encouraging, motivational, inspirational journey the last year.
Good. So, big success, huh?
Big success. I'm happy.
Yeah. That's always a success.
So that's the only
Anybody
thing that
says
counts.
they're happy, that's successful.
Yeah.
But what I want to ask you now, since doing it, and obviously with your background, what have you found has been the biggest gaps? You know, and you say air cargo expert, and I agree. There's not that many. There's a lot of people who follow. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of people who make the difference and make the change. So, what are you seeing as the biggest opportunities that are cropping up?
Yeah, I think it depends on what level you're looking at. I think that in general, when we look at the higher level, when it talks about governments, about airports, regional development bodies, they still do not really understand the dynamics of cargo. They are used to passengers, they're used to managing an airport, and they still copy whatever they know from the passenger business to the cargo.
Yeah.
And that's a completely different thing. On all levels. So I think that just the sheer lack of understanding and knowledge, that's already where it starts. And then the more detailed you go, it is a lot of people balancing in what I call the day-to-day operations, and that step back and having that longer term view on how to move forward. In one of the presentations we always we used that in Brussels, and we said 90% of your time you should be working on day-to-day stuff. 9% you should be thinking about tomorrow, and 1% you should be thinking about next week. I think that in our industry, 90% of our time we are working on what we call the soy, and solving the shit of yesterday. So we don't even come on spending 90% on the day job. So I have the feeling that we are always like running behind facts, and I think that's one of the challenges we have. But at the same time, I've never been so positive about the change you're seeing. I really think that our industry starts embracing technology, starts seeing the benefit. They're still balancing on what do we need or we don't need, because we are still a down-to-earth business. We don't need most high-tech. But at a certain point, there is also companies that can use automatization, digitization. And I think that some of the big logistic players in the industry are really putting positive trends, and people are adapting to it. So in that sense, I'm positive, but it's a constant struggle and a balance to find that mix in getting things done and preparing how we will do things tomorrow. And that is a struggle.
No, I agree with you. And I think, like your soy term, but I always say, whenever I go into organisations now, I work with people, you find so many people busy being busy. And it's all about, like you said, repairing, recovering, finding out what went wrong. And there's not that much preparation for the critical criteria.
Yeah.
So it's busy being busy instead of busy being better.
Yeah.
And now I think one of the big challenges is to do with productivity and quality.
Yeah.
I see huge drops in that, and I think that's a huge challenge now. So the take-up then with digitisation, automation, robotics, etc., it now needs a finer mind to make sure that both of those areas can come together and work off of each other. One's not a panacea for the other, and one's not a reason for introducing the other.
Yeah.
Do you...
No, I fully agree. And I think a good example, and okay, I'm going to mention names, I don't think he will mind. The Stefan Binst, he is the cargo manager Belgium for the NATA.
Yeah.
And he's what some people would call a strange guy, not a typical guy. And the way he looks at the cargo handling process and how he manages his team, he is not going completely into it. He is really keeping that bird's eye view, really encouraging and enabling people to do their job really well. And I've never heard about a handling agent getting so much positive feedback from the airlines, from its stakeholders. So I think it shows that we can do it, and I think that we should not be afraid. We too often look at the experience as you need to be very knowledgeable in what you're doing, while we should much more look at what are your skills as a manager, because expertise is on the shop floor. Honestly, don't try to pretend that you know better how to build a pallet. These guys know. But how are you going to be a manager to give them the tools to do the job in the best possible way? And I think that is what he does really well, and it pays off. And we can learn from this kind of examples.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that feet on ground understanding is so important because it gives credibility then from the floor up.
Absolutely.
Whereas there's an awful lot of people who say, yes, I'm always in with my people, but they're not. They just fleet in, fleet out, and there's no structure to it. So I think it's important to give the people who are doing the work, like you say, the credibility and the respect and motivate.
And then use IT and digitization and quality programs to strengthen those fundaments, so that people can focus on what is really important, getting the cargo done.
No, I agree. Yeah, the data-driven decision making. Good data is invaluable.
Key. Absolutely.
Now, the other thing I want to ask you, in some of the projects that you're doing, obviously succession is a key issue because it's overlooked because people are being busy instead of looking towards tomorrow. And then motivation to keep people staying with an organisation. That's also under pressure at the moment.
I don't think that's an industry problem. I think that's an individual problem. I think there is companies doing a really great job on how they deal with people, prepare for succession. And I think there's companies who really suck in it. And I think that is the same in other industries. But if you are a true leader and a manager, this is part of your job. And if you're not doing that, then you're not the right person. And so I don't think it's an industry problem because I think there's really good examples where this is happening in a really good way. And I see also, we always talk about getting the young people on board. This is not something we're going to do on a global scale. Do you know how we encourage young people to come on board? By being inspirational yourself in your direct environment. That's what encourages young people to be interested in this industry. Not because I am speaking on a panel or I'm in a magazine. It's my direct one-to-one contact with my team, the people I work with, that inspires them for this industry and the job. So we should stop putting that responsibility and push it up to a higher level. No, it's the 3,000 people here that have that responsibility.
No, it's a fair point. And something else I want to ask you, and again, it's something that I've been finding a lot lately. There's an awful lot of reliance on LMS and certain training for a tick box, regulatory criteria and what must be done. And people are so under pressure, again, because they're being busy, to get those tick box exercises out of the way. And they're taking their eye off what's going on with developing the softer skills for the people who need to be the managers of the future and the leaders of the future. And that can only be done with a more practical checkout, a more practical approach. Because I was with a group of people recently and they were at the top of the list with the online testing. We went out on a ramp and people were complaining about the noise, the weather, how difficult it is under such pressure. How can that be? Do you know what I mean?
But again, I think
it's assuming that people have got the knowledge because they can do it behind the screen. But on the ground, it's a different matter.
But it's the same thing, all this kind of compliances, and it's important.
Of course,
But too many of the processes we push down are there to cover our ass when things go wrong. And I think that we should programs on quality, on digitization, on IT. I think there's today enough tools that could help the people to focus on the job, and IT should support their job rather than take away their attention for another checklist that they need to do. And I think smart digitization can absolutely help so that people indeed have time to do what is really important and do those soft skills. And I think, again, like I said, I think what Denata and Brussels is doing, what Stef is doing is exactly that. Is indeed making sure that the people have the time to be the people and do the soft skills, and your system and your structure should be there to support the people, not to make their life more complicated.
Yeah. No, he'll be pleased that you've given him a big shout, and at least you're going to get one Christmas card for definite this year.
I want more than a
But
Christmas card. I'm expecting him to buy me a beer as well.
No, but I'm sure he will. But I agree with you. And
but that's another thing. I think we should give credit to the good examples.
I totally agree
We
with
are
you.
always complaining.
I totally agree.
Always complaining, and we always see the negative things.
Yep.
We need more this. We need more that. Why are we need to do?
Yeah.
Honestly, if I would be reading about our industry and hearing about our industry, and I'm a young person, I would think, I don't want to work for that. I think that we are sometimes also too critical and too negative ourselves, not willing to see the good things that are happening, and there are really a lot of good things happening.
Yeah.
So I think we should also get a bit more of a positive attitude in our industry and encourage people to see the good one and to support the good one.
Yeah.
It's going to be more fun for everybody to be passionate about air cargo.
I totally agree. And one of the things you said there earlier about the balance and about IT supporting the business, it definitely does. Because there's too many tails in organisations trying to wag the dog. And at the end of the day, it's the core business that makes the big impact. Now, that brings another thing that I'm seeing as well, is there's a lot of creation of new roles. Customer improvement management, customer service, client, all these new roles that are there because there's problems. But by putting them in, and they're on a higher level again, they're putting more pressure down on the ground again. Instead of, I think, doing the fundamentals so that people understand the reasons why on the ground, and they start taking a bit of pride, they realise their value to the organisation and to themselves, and then they start pushing up what they need, rather than all these people giving them more checklists, making them do more things. I just think that's a little bit of an imbalance at the moment.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And again, it shows the same issue is something goes wrong, and we one way or the other we forgot to look at the root cause of something goes wrong. So we are always trying to impact the outcome, but we never go back to why did it go wrong. So a lot of discussions that you see is we are trying to solve the problem, but not by solving the problem, by solving the outcome of it. So we're not looking at the disease, but we are looking at the how do you call that, when somebody is sick, you're coughing. We're trying to get some medicine to stop the coughing, but we're not solving
why did they catch it in the first place. No, I agree.
And I think that's something we should start learning, because indeed, if you add on that output thing, you're gonna create a further imbalance, and often it takes a bit more time, but you have a structural solution if you go back to the root cause. And that is something, and the fun thing is we go back to what you say, the skilled people, often they know the solution.
Yes.
You don't need to do it top down. The
Yes.
people on the shop floor, they know the solution.
Exactly.
But again, I don't think this is a problem in our industry. For me, this is an individual problem. What I do think is that if you've always worked in your same environment, the same thing, I think I do like change in a sense. I think it's good for people that they change jobs from time to time, that they change companies from time to time.
I agree with you.
That you have a new look and a new view coming in. I really think that is very, very important, and something that traditionally our industry did not do too often. You have people, and again, really great, that have been 30 years in that same company, growing through the positions. But honestly, it's a limitation, and I think that's different. That's what you see with the younger generation. They are eager and keen to learn, and they don't have that ambition to be 30 years in the same company doing the next steps. They want that satisfactory feeling, that fulfillment of what they're doing. So that's good, I think.
Yeah. And again, just the point you're making, I know they're all important, but I think clarity and competence is what gives you compliance and control. But if you focus too much on control and compliance, and you don't have the competence and clarity, you're never going to achieve your objectives. And now I think is the time. Give people now some time, care about them, and start pumping in the fundamentals at grassroots levels, a good solid foundation, so that some of these people who are happy to move, they do want to stay a little bit longer because they're in a learning environment. And as long as they're in a learning environment, it's going to increase their personal asset value and give them the chance to earn more money and make it better for them when they do move on. And companies shouldn't try and stop people moving on, or definitely shouldn't stop investing in them, because they feel if they invest in them they'll go anywhere. Anyhow, they need to be creative.
That's the stupid joke that was going on LinkedIn. why do we invest in people? Because if they go, it's all for nothing.
Exactly.
And you can say, but what if we don't invest and they stay? And that's even worse. So I fully agree. I really. So when I was in Brussels airport, and Sarah van Gelder, she started working with me.
Yeah. So
I
lovely.
immediately encouraged her to go on stage, and somebody came to me.
I remember when she first went up.
Yeah. You started making the jokes. Who's your boss? That was you.
Yeah.
She gave a really good answer.
She was
He's not
superb.
my boss. He's my mentor. So that was really great. But when somebody said to me, you should not do it because everybody will see her how good she is. They will try to convince her to move. And I said to them, no. If I don't give her this opportunity, she will find somewhere else. She will stay with me because she knows that I'm going to give her opportunities to grow and to learn.
Yeah.
The good thing, Chris, is I really think that companies or departments, if bosses are not going to adapt to this new reality, they will lose out. So there will be a natural selection. So I don't think we should focus too much on trying to solve this on an industry level. Let's embrace the ones who are doing a good job, support them.
Yep.
And the other ones will lose out, they will lose the game.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I'm okay with that.
And I think a measure of success is how many people you've managed or mentored are actually now successful.
Yeah,
and if you can pass that baton on, I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Good what you're doing, good what you've done, Steve. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for giving us your time and wishing you great success for 2025.
Thank you very much. When we have the ACF in Abu Dhabi,
yes,
and we hope to see you there again.
Oh, please God, yeah.
Which is half your home as well. You
yeah,
know
oh,
it
yeah,
very
I love it there. Yeah.
So we're going to try to build on this one. Like I said, we have more than 3,000 people here, and I think that is part of the success. It's our job as TIACA to bring the people here, and now it's up. And again, it's the same thing. What I also said is that, guys, we bring you together here, but now it's your responsibility to meet the people, to talk to the people. I can't hold your hand and encourage you. So I think it's really important that individual responsibility is something we really have to encourage people to look at.
Totally
the industry and the associations can't solve everything.